Now, the BJP has hit out at the AAP amid reports that the Delhi government will roll back its controversial excise policy, which came into effect in 2021 November. That's last year now. Essentially, what the BJP has said, and this was said by BJP spokesperson Amit Malviya, that, and I'm going to quote what he tweeted out, if the new excise policy of Kejriwal isn't a mega scam, then why is his government rushing to revert to the old policy after the CBI inquiry was ordered? Now, in other words, it is an admission of violations, corruption, and loss to the exchequer, as pointed out. Sisodia to join Satendra in jail. This is what Amit Malviya has said in relation to the Delhi excise policy possibly being rolled back, as per sources. And essentially, this is again another flashpoint between the BJP and the AAP in connection to the controversial excise policy, which, as we mentioned, came into effect in 2021 November. Now, under the new policy, licenses of 849 liquor vendors were issued through open bidding via private firms. Now, the city was then divided into 32 zones, with each having a maximum of 27 vendors. And instead of individual licenses, bidding was done zone-wise, and each bidder was allowed to bid for a maximum of 2 zones. Now, this was the policy that essentially brought out a lot of controversy. Now, I'm crossing over to my colleague Akash to give us more details and context on this story. Akash, we now have BJP's Amit Malviya lashing out at AAP over what sources have said that they are going to now roll back the excise policy that came into effect in 2021 November. Can you give us more context on this, please?
Right. So, Aisha, let me tell you that BJP has started attacking Aam Aadmi Party government, saying that if there was nothing wrong in this particular policy, then why you are reverting it back? Though we haven't heard it officially from the Aam Aadmi Party, but at this point in time, this is one piece that we are getting, that Aam Aadmi Party is all set to revert to the old policy. In fact, we have the official noting of the Finance Department saying that till the time the new policy they are preparing the new policy, they should, go back to the old policy for the next 6 months. In fact, we have seen a whole lot of drama over this particular policy. You must be remembering the time when last year in November, when this policy was implemented. At that time also, opposition parties were opposing this particular policy, saying that this is against the people in Delhi, and also Aam Aadmi Party is somewhere promoting liquor in the national capital. After that, just a few days back, we saw how LG came out and recommended a CBI probe in this particular policy. Also, just a few days back, we have seen that EOW wing of the Delhi police has basically asked some questions related to this particular policy. So at this point in time, this is the major development where Aam Aadmi Party is all set to revert to this old policy instead of the new one. And BJP is constantly attacking Aam Aadmi Party, saying that just because a CBI probe has been ordered, just because agencies are now probing your role and the alleged corruption, now you are reverting back to the old policy.
Absolutely, Akash. And it is a little strange if the AAP is essentially going to be taking a U-turn, but essentially we'll see if that source-based information does turn out to be true. What I also wanted to ask you is about the semantics of this. Now, let's say that the AAP does do a U-turn on this excise policy. Will the CBI probe that's been ordered by the LG still continue?
Yes, it's a matter of investigation now, and no matter this policy remains in force or, they are going back to the old policy, CBI will ultimately be investigating this particular policy because it has been recommended by LG. Also, Aisha, let me mention this very fact, comparing the old policy and the new policy. So, old policy was also about the government thekas, government shops of liquor in the national capital, but in new policy, privatization was prioritized, and that's the reason why in new policy we were seeing that only private vendors were there. More than 800 shops in the national capital, it was the initial plan, and all these shops would be in the hands of private vendors only. This was the main plan. However, we saw that later only a few vendors came out in public saying that, okay, we'll be running these shops. But comparing it with the old policy, for now, Delhi government is very...
All right, Akash, I'd like you to stay with us because right now we are joined by BJP's Shehzad Poonawalla. Mr. Poonawalla, thank you so much for joining us on this newscast. Essentially, what we're breaking is a statement from your own party member, Amit Malviya, who is now hit out at the Kejriwal government after sources have indicated that the AAP government may take a U-turn on its excise policy. Could we have your first reaction to that source-based information, please?
This is a vindication of what the BJP has been saying from day one, that the new excise policy is the biggest scam that has been perpetrated by the Kejriwal government, and Mr. Kejriwal is defending those who are involved in this liquor scam. The fact that he's rolled back this scheme and gone back to the old scheme, which he anyways complained was full of corruption, shows that today they have been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. The fact of the matter is that the Chief Secretary's report has become the basis of the LG ordering a CBI probe. And ever since, Mr. Kejriwal has been trying to divert and deviate, not answering straight questions that we posed to him yesterday, we posed to him a few weeks ago about the excise policy. The fact of the matter is that this new excise policy was brought to collect money from liquor mafias just before the Punjab elections, spend that money in Punjab elections, and now that they have found that they are being caught in corruption and that their ministers might go to jail in this, they are now trying to go back. But this is not going to save them or help their cause, because those who've indulged in corruption, like Satyendra Jain, has been indicted by a court of law twice in the last 3 days. The similar manner, the sargana of this corruption, the excise department was controlled by a minister. That minister will also have to face jail time. Going back to an old policy is only a vindication of the stand taken by the BJP, vindication of the stand that there should be a CBI probe in this, and vindication of the fact that Mr. Kejriwal is a Kattar corrupt person, not a Kattar imandar. He is defending Kattar corruption. If he is not defending the Kattar corrupt, he must come out and tell us, A, what action will he take on Satyendra Jain, B, what action will he take on those who are responsible for this excise policy scam.
Now, just to explain to our viewers this entire situation, could you also explain why your party has a problem with the excise policy?
Yes. Look, the new excise policy, he has increased the number of liquor vends and has involved the private liquor players and the liquor mafias in violation of the same policy that he has come up with. He has given manufacturing companies the right to retail. He has given blacklisted companies the right to retail. Under this policy, a large amount of benefits were passed on to the liquor mafia. For instance, a 144 crore waiver was given to them. A 30 crore EMD, which should have been refunded and given to the state coffers, was given back to them. The fact of the matter is that to push and promote alcohol in every street and mohalla, 2233 vends were opened. All of these decisions were taken by one single person, not even by the cabinet or by the structures that should be taking these decisions in Delhi government structures. And it was taken in violation of various rules and laws of the Delhi government that are in place. And this shows that it has been done for a quid pro quo. The fact of the matter is that this entire policy has given a huge benefit to a certain section of liquor mafia. For instance, 50 rupees per crate of discount was given on international liquor to beer companies particularly, without taking the decision from a proper route. This was done so that the quid pro quo could be done, money could be received by some people who are governing this policy, controlling this policy, and it was done for some quid pro quo, and therefore this policy is completely steeped in corruption. A CBI probe has been ordered. Now what we require is that those who are behind taking these decisions, giving patronage to the liquor mafia, should be the ones who should be sacked by Mr. Kejriwal. Instead, Mr. Kejriwal is saying, I will not act on the corrupt. I will just go back to the old policy. Going back to the old policy itself is vindication that A, they made Delhi Nasha Yukt, not Nasha Mukt. B, they have admitted that there was something wrong in the new excise policy and its implementation, and for that, there must be criminal proceedings.
All right, and Mr. Poonawala, I do have one more question for you now. There's one criticism that constantly comes in from the opposition, especially the AAP, where they say that the centre essentially uses all of these government agencies to attack the opposition. And with this situation, because the LG has recommended a CBI probe and the LG is appointed by the centre, what is your take on that particular criticism that tends to come in from the opposition?
It deserves to be treated with the contempt it deserves, because the court of law twice in 3 days has indicted Mr. Satyendra Jain. Yesterday, the court took cognizance of the charge sheet filed against Satyendra Jain and has said that prima facie there is enough evidence to prosecute him for money laundering under PMLA. Secondly, Satyendra Jain has been indicted by a high court saying that he is a man of criminal background. Before that, in 2019, Mr. Satyendra Jain has been indicted. Are you saying that the courts of this country are vindictive, Mr. Kejriwal? So the courts of law are taking action in this. This particular excise policy scam was detected by the Chief Secretary's report. The Chief Secretary submitted the report to the LG, and the LG has then ordered a probe. If you have done nothing wrong, why hide? And why is it that they get no relief from any court of law? The fact of the matter is Satyendra Jain is languishing in custody for the last 2 months. If he was so innocent, if he was being treated with vendetta, why hasn't he got any relief? So, these are all excuses and victim cards that many of them play.